All right, let's break down what's really going on. A new day brings a fresh batch of critical updates, and one of them has been broadcast for all to hear, loud and clear. The European Union is apparently set to be ready for war with Russia by 2030. You heard that right. The European Commission, under the leadership of Ursula von der Leyen, is pushing to prepare the entire bloc for what they're calling the battlefields of tomorrow. That's the exact language being used, the exact phrasing being published. This isn't some backroom whisper, this is the official line. I spent years on the inside of a major media corporation, and I saw firsthand how narratives are built, how words are carefully chosen to steer public opinion. I couldn't stomach it, so I left. Now, I'm independent, speaking directly to you, connecting the dots on what these official statements actually mean for our future. If you believe in that mission, in getting the unvarnished truth, then please take a second to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. And if you're able, consider becoming a channel sponsor. Your support is what keeps this platform independent and allows me to continue digging deeper without answering to any corporate agenda. It truly means the world to me. According to the military plan which the European Commission is set to present in detail at the EU summit on October 23rd, member states have exactly 5 years to get ready. This defense readiness roadmap includes a plan to create what they're calling a functional drone wall. Think about that for a moment. A wall of drones. The first components of this anti-drone shield are supposed to be operational by the end of 2026, with the entire system up and running by the end of 2027. The plan is for the heads of state to approve this sweeping European drone defense initiative, which will then trigger the joint procurement of surveillance systems and all sorts of counter-drone technologies. And it doesn't stop there. They're also planning to create a defense space shield. The EU leadership has laid out 9 priority areas where member states are being urged to pour money immediately, including ammunition, drones, and the tech to defeat them. But they're making one thing crystal clear. Defending the eastern flank and building that drone wall are the most urgent priorities of all. It's a full-scale military ramp-up happening right before our eyes. But while Brussels is busy drawing up its plans for the battlefield, the German Chancellor delivered a very different and very pointed message this morning. In a government statement to the Bundestag, he sent a clear signal to Ursula von der Leyen. The European Union is drowning in rules, crippled by bureaucracy and suffering from pathetic economic growth. The Chancellor demanded a complete overhaul of the EU's regulatory framework. It's time for a change, he declared. Europe must become a force for peace, and that includes economic, political, and military strength. This wasn't a suggestion, it was a loud and public demand from the head of Germany's federal government. We'll have to wait and see how the head of the European Commission responds to that call. At the same time, it was announced that the German government, under Chancellor Friedrich Merz, has accepted the challenge of what he calls Russia's hybrid war against Germany and is preparing a comprehensive plan to counter these threats. He spoke of sabotage, cyber attacks, targeted disinformation, and espionage, all aimed at destabilizing Germany and Europe. We will not be intimidated, he stated. We will defend ourselves against this. And almost at the exact same moment, a protest was taking place right in front of the Bundestag against plans to introduce military service. Representatives from Greenpeace, the Catholic Peace Movement, and the German Peace Society all came together. These anti-war activists called on the government to abandon its military plans, using a giant inflatable broken rifle as their centerpiece. Their message was simple. More weapons won't bring more security. They'll only drag us into an expensive and dangerous new arms race. Meanwhile, a new poll in Germany reveals just how deep the anxiety runs. 27% of the country's residents now believe an armed conflict with Russia is possible within the next 6 months. Sociologists note that this fear is significantly stronger among young people and women. It seems all this constant talk of war is having a real impact. Over in France, Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu breathed a sigh of relief today as 2 no-confidence votes against his government failed. The first, brought by the far left, fell just 18 votes short of the 289 needed to topple the government. The second, proposed by the right, was also rejected. Now, let's head over to Spain, where it seems most people aren't too worried about an arms race, at least not yet. They seem more disconnected from the growing internal political conflicts, and believe me, they are growing. The Spanish parliament has become a theatre of constant scandal, with Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez and opposition leader Alberto Núñez Feijóo getting into verbal brawls almost daily. But that's just the political sideshow. The real story is on the streets. Days after a ceasefire in Gaza came into effect, tens of thousands of people across Spain have continued to hold massive protests in support of Palestine. The largest demonstrations took place in major cities, but in Barcelona, things went a step further. In a show of solidarity with the Palestinian people, a general strike was also held. Many institutions reduced their working hours, public transport ran far less frequently, and some schools were even closed. As you might expect, in several places, the demonstrations escalated into unrest, prompting a tougher response and the arrest of the most active participants. If you find this analysis valuable, please consider hitting that subscribe button so you don't miss any updates. Meanwhile, an unexpected piece of news is coming out of Italy, but on a completely different front. Italy, we're told, is experiencing a major financial upswing thanks to the soaring price of gold. The Bank of Italy holds one of the largest gold reserves in the world, estimated to be worth around $300 billion. And notice that key word, around. Unlike many other countries, Italy has consistently refused to sell off its gold, even during severe economic crises. Gold makes up nearly 75% of Italy's official reserves, which is way above the Eurozone average. Now, some have argued that Italy should sell it to help pay down its massive public debt, which has already surpassed 3 trillion euros. But financial experts insist that it wouldn't even make a dent in a debt that enormous. So the Bank of Italy is standing firm, viewing its gold as an essential asset in these incredibly uncertain times. As the experts explained, during crises, wars, and periods of total uncertainty, investors flock to safe havens, and that means buying gold. The price has already hit a new record high, and all reports indicate it's going to keep climbing. There's another very unusual decision coming out of Europe today that you need to hear about. The European Union's highest court has ruled that pets can legally be considered baggage. This decision effectively limits the liability of airlines when they lose someone's animal. This all started after an incident where a dog escaped from its carrier at the airport in Buenos Aires and was never found. The owner demanded €5,000 in compensation. The airline admitted the loss, but argued that its liability was capped under EU rules for registered baggage. And now, the court has sided with the airline. So for any airline operating in Europe, this ruling acts as a shield against larger claims if your pet, your baggage, manages to escape. Shifting over to the United States, the restructuring continues, and in fact, it seems to be gaining momentum. Dozens of journalists have demonstratively walked out of the Pentagon, handing in their press passes in protest. The reason? New rules that forbid reporters from covering the department's activities without the explicit approval of the head of the Pentagon, a figure named Pete Hegseth. And we're talking about any information here, it doesn't matter if it's classified or not. It's no secret that trust in the media has plummeted recently, you all know that. We're flooded with disinformation and fake news. So the new directive states that any publications concerning the Department of Defense must be personally approved by its chief. Naturally, news organizations condemned the move, even though, as the source notes, censorship was allegedly already a reality under the Biden administration. It just wasn't something those same news outlets were allowed to report on. Now, speaking to reporters at the White House, Donald Trump voiced his support for the Pentagon's new rules. With his typical bluntness, Trump claimed the press is very dishonest and a major obstacle to world peace, basically saying out loud what many people are already thinking. But let's leave the heavy politics for a moment, because there's a fascinating story out of the US that's getting a lot of attention. The ex-husband of Sia, one of the most successful singers of the last decade, is demanding she pay him $250,000 a month. His justification is that during their marriage, he gave up his own career and dedicated himself entirely to a life of luxury. He claims he became spoiled, and now, after the divorce, he's unable to return to a normal job or a normal life. He says he was ruined by the lavish lifestyle and that $250,000 a month is fair compensation. He's already taken his demand to court. So, to quickly recap what we've covered, we have the European Union on a 5-year timeline to prepare for war, complete with a drone wall. We have Germany's leadership publicly challenging the EU's bureaucracy while also bracing for a hybrid war. We're seeing massive street protests in Spain, while Italy's financial strength is being buoyed by its massive gold reserves. And in the US, we have an unprecedented press crackdown at the Pentagon, which has received vocal support from Donald Trump, alongside a truly bizarre celebrity divorce case that says a lot about our current times. What do you think about all this? Should a former husband be paid for being spoiled by luxury? Let me know in the comments. Let me finish with my deepest gratitude goes to our sponsors. You are far more than supporters, you are the very lifeline of this channel. Without you, these stories wouldn't be told, this voice wouldn't be heard, and the pursuit of truth would fade into silence. Because of your faith in independent journalism, I can stand here and speak openly, without compromise and without fear. And to everyone watching, you matter just as much. Each time you subscribe, each like you give, each comment you leave, you strengthen this mission and send a clear message that real voices cannot be silenced. Hitting that subscribe button is not just a click, it's a commitment to standing with something bigger. Adding your comment is not just feedback, it's proof that truth still resonates and that people refuse to turn away. So take a moment now, subscribe, press like, and share your thoughts below. Help us keep this channel alive, growing, and impossible to ignore. Together we become stronger, louder, and unstoppable. Thank you for joining me. If you believe in independent commentary that cuts through the noise, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and if you can, consider becoming a sponsor. Your support is the only thing that keeps this mission going. I'll be back tomorrow to track the next wave of developments. Stay sharp.